I'm so excited about that conversation we're about to have right now because I have music missionary Joel Polo with me. How are you, Joel?
I am fantastic, doing good, can't complain.
Joel is up in the state of New York. That's where he lives
Cool.
and works. He's a pastor for a church up in Bronx in Yonkers. And he is doing all kinds of music, all kinds of outreach. He's very active in his community. And the way I know him is through music missions, because Joel, you have been on a lot of music mission trips with us. I can't really count them, honestly. I know most of them have been to Italy. Will you tell us
Yeah,
why you keep doing these mission trips over and over and over?
man, music mission trips, man, it fulfills a purpose that is in my heart. It fulfills a purpose, it connected me actually to my purpose, to be honest with you. I actually got serious with the calling of my life as a pastor through the impact of music missions trips has had in my life. I remember the very first time that I took a music mission trip. This was a while ago, and it was into Cosenza. That was the very first time, first time that I've been around people who didn't look like me, who didn't speak my language, and then come from the same culture as I did, and the way that the Spirit of God and the music itself, the gospel music, just connected us. I mean, fast forward to now. I mean, these people have actually stayed in my house when they came to New York. I was actually, you didn't even know this because I didn't say it yet, but in June I was actually supposed to go back there and start recording my first gospel project live in Cosenza. I keep going back because there's a need for the gospel, and the people there are hungry for the word of God. They really are, they really are. And the way we've been able to share, the gospel through music and what GTM means to not just me, but what GTM means to the world is fantastic. And Anna, I just want to take this moment and thank you for being obedient, because there is no GTM without you, and there's no GTM without you being obedient. And I always tell my people that when we are obedient to the word of God, it's not just about us, but we're saving many and many and many lives. So through your obedience, it allowed me to step right into my purpose.
Wow, I was getting chills right now. Thank you so much for saying that. It's very encouraging. And I was going to say thank you to you because you keep going, you keep serving, you keep spreading the gospel through music.
I
And
love it. I love
I'm
it. I
grateful
love
to you for that. Yeah.
I love it. And I love the gelato. They know that.
Oh, the gelato and acqua fresca, right? If you go to Italy, you'll know what he means.
Yeah, yeah,
Joel actually
you
changed
understand.
his Facebook name to gelato and acqua fresca. Aqua fresca is some kind of soda. Yeah, it's amazing.
There's fresh water, but
Yeah,
it's a
Italy.
special type of fresh water.
Hmm. All right, Joel. Yeah, I know Italy has kind of become almost like a second home to you, but you're actually not even from the U.S. You grew up in Haiti.
Nope. Yep. I'm from Haiti. I was born in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, and the first 10 and a half years of my life was spent in my home country. So shout out to all of my Haitian people. Ça passe.
Yeah. So, will you share a little bit about what it was like growing up in Haiti?
Growing up in Haiti compared to growing up in the United States is two different jungle. Two different jungle. The really, I love my country, and unfortunately, the way that they perceive the country to be on media is not really true. Because once you take one trip to Haiti, once you've met, the Haitian people, you realize how hardworking that they are. Those are people that are doing great things with very little. Unfortunately, we do not have a lot of resources there. Many of our roads are not really made. And you can be at home and they take the power away from you. I'm talking about like electricity, and you have to wait a couple hours till they give it back. So they take it and give it whenever they feel like. And unfortunately, the security there is not too good. There's so much corruptions, but what country doesn't have corruptions, right? We're considered to be a third world country, but truth be told, we are one of the strongest nation that ever existed. The very first freaking country to actually gain its independence, right? Let's never forget that. And one of the reasons why the United States itself has a place like New Orleans and Louisiana is because of what Haitians did to help them, achieve that, But growing up in Haiti was extremely difficult. I came from what we call humble beginnings. I wasn't born into money. I was, born to a son of the late Bishop, Dr. Joel Polo Sr., may God bless his soul, and my mother, who as a healthcare worker who provided, health needs to the people in the neighborhood. I'm talking about she's going out checking on people, and that doesn't mean that she would get paid. Sometimes she's administering, medicine, taking care of people at the kindness of her heart. But one thing, God always took care of my family. So at a very young age, my faith in God was always there because I grew up in a home where we know that we didn't have much, but we lean on God, and God always made a way for every single one of us, and we lived as a community. That's what I really love about Haiti is we live as a community. That means if you're my neighbor, if you had it, that means we had it, because the next week, you may not have it and we had it, that means you had it too, but some way, somehow, we didn't get, here I can open up my fridge and eat whatever I want, whenever I want. If I want to eat 6, 7 times a day, I can do that. But that's not always possible for a lot of families. There's a lot of people, jobs is almost non-existent. So, to make a living, it's extremely, extremely, extremely difficult. But one way, one out, we are resilient people, and we've always, had to, fight our way through, but we've always come out on top. But there's always been some adversities.
Yes,
always.
Exactly. Joel, I know that you have one of the most incredible testimonies I've ever heard, and I want people to hear it. So we're going to get into it, but maybe just set the stage a little for what Haiti was like, even spiritually, because I know you said politically there were a lot of corruption, but spiritually, I know that was a challenge as well.
Yeah, well, spiritually, you either believe in God, and if you believe in God, or you took that serious. And if you didn't believe in God, then you was part of the people that was practicing witchcraft. And the thing is, that was your two options. There was no in between. There was no, well, we don't believe it. No, you was going to believe into something. And whatever it is that you believed in, you had to get in it really deep. Because, that type of stuff, especially like the witchcraft, it turned families upside down. So many people lost their lives, doing stuff like that, right? You don't go around playing with the devil. So those of us who believe in God, we didn't play church.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean, we did not play church because your refuge was being in God. So when you found God, you make sure you held on to him a little tighter than usual. Yeah. Because if you did not, there were definitely different forces coming after you. I remember, my mother shared that story with me when, I was born. She lived in a neighborhood where every woman that would get pregnant in that neighborhood would lose their child. Every single woman there. So there was no child at all in that neighborhood. And what ended up happening is when my mother and my father, there, being people of God, people of faith, and here comes my mother getting pregnant, right? And here I comes, and as she's going through the pregnancy, at night, she's having these type of dreams, these type of nightmares. And one day she went to bed, and then she saw that as she was sleeping, and I was in the crib, right? And she saw a big snake come into the room. And the snake came in, and when she sees me, though, she sees that I am inside of this clear glass. And the snake is trying to go all around me to try to get me, but he cannot, because, he can't get to me. All he could get to is just to the glass. But he can't lift up the glass. He can't break through the glass. He can't penetrate the glass. So what God was showing is there are some evil things that are going on in this neighborhood to trying to kill your son. But don't worry about it, because I got him covered. I got him in the palm of my hand. And what ended up happening, we came to find out that what was happening is the lady that my parents was renting the house from, it was her. She could never have kids. So therefore, because she wasn't a Christian, she was a witchcraft. The way that she dealt with, her PTSD was to make sure that nobody in the neighborhood could have kids. So she would literally practice witchcraft to kill their newborns and kill any possibility of anybody in the neighborhood having it. So then the funny thing is, make a long story short, she ended up telling herself and telling my mother that my mother must be the biggest devil. Because the thing in Haiti is, if a devil cannot get you, that's because that means one or two things: you're really in God, or you're a bigger devil than they are. Mm. So right, because there's levels to this. Just like there's levels to our faith, there's also levels to the witchcraft. But God showed my mom like bright as day that the attack is coming. But then that's what the Bible tells us, right? The weapons will form, but it will not prosper.
What an incredible story, and it proves that it is real, like the witchcraft. Because over in Europe, we have a lot of atheism. It's almost like we don't see God because no one dabbles in anything. It's more like the atheism that's become our curse in a sense over in Europe. Mm-hmm. God doesn't exist, but if you live in Haiti, that there's a spirit world, and when God, God does protect you. But I remember one time you said that when people come to church, they'll come hours before the service starts just to pray because you need to pray. And I think it just
nobody is late. Nobody is late. Let me tell you, where we lived, it was like probably an hour away from where our church was. Mm-hmm. And if church was starting at 9 a.m., people would already be out their house from 7 a.m. and hitting the road to get there. Okay. And even after service is over, church was always that safe haven that, people would hang out there. Some people coming to church gave them an opportunity to also be blessed with food, So church meant a lot. It wasn't just a place it wasn't just a thing that we did every Sunday. Mm-hmm. Because we didn't just go to church on Sundays. We went to Tuesday night praise service. We went to Bible studies. We had a thing called, in our language, it's called veille de nuit, but it's literally it's fasting prayer that we'll go to, and it will be like overnight. You'll go like 8, o'clock at night, and then it'll be finished maybe 6 o'clock in the morning. Like you do it overnight. And people would just lay prostrate in front of the Lord, just worshiping and praying for their families. So let me tell you something. Yeah, our faith it's not a Sunday thing. It was definitely not a Sunday thing.
Wow. That's something we should see in the Western world sometimes, just to understand that God is real.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
exactly.
When you were about 10 years old, something happened to you that is absolutely mind-blowing, and I know it was a very traumatic experience, but if you would please share that with us, I think it could be a huge inspiration to everyone who actually gets to hear this.
Man, if you only knew what God has brought me through, right? Because many times we see people and we have no idea, the things that they had to overcome, the battles that God, did on their behalf, and sometimes, when we meet somebody, we don't meet them at chapter 1 of their life. So we have no idea what they had to complain. That's why I always tell people, don't judge me by where you met me, because you have no idea where I come from. You have no idea, what God had to do in my life to brought me up to this point. And up until now, the Lord has kept me. When I was about 10 years old, and there's a date that, mind you, now this year, by the grace of God, I'm going to be 36 years old. And this is something that I've remembered for 26 years. And every time I talk about it, Anna, it's kind of like it just happened this morning. Wow. Like every time I speak about it, I see it as clear as day, as I'm seeing you right now, and you're right now in North Carolina and I'm here in New York. And as I'm seeing you right now, it's like every time I speak on it, it's like fresh as it. There's no, let me see what happened. No, because how certain things in life, you always know, like 9/11, everybody knows. I guarantee you, doesn't matter how old you are, you're going to remember where you was at, what you was doing on 9/11. There's certain things that happen in your life. It will stay with you your whole life. And that's been my testimony. And to the point where I remember the exact date, okay? It was February 7th, 1994. And a day that was supposed to be just a regular day going to school. And my day started out good, mommy cooking breakfast like she normally would, get us ready to go to school. I would always leave first, right? Because I had to go, we would walk to school. There's no school bus, right? There's no such thing as that, a school bus picking you up and dropping you. No. You get to school. So if your parents was lucky enough to have cars, you would get rides to school. With us, the best, automobile that we ever known was our feet. It got us to a lot of places. You hear me? It got us to a lot of places. That was our Toyota. All right, that was our modern day vehicle. And my mother started to take me to school. And as we got into the main road, which is Carrefour, where it is Carrefour, that's a little city inside of Port-au-Prince itself, in the capital. So as we're walking, my mom realized that she forgot to grab something, and it was important for her too. But as she was about to make a decision, should she continue with me or to go, then a couple of our neighbors with some other kids. So it's a total of 3 kids now, and 4 adults. So it's a total of 7 of us. And what ended up happening, she saw that they were all going to the same direction. She said, hey, she trusts me to go with them, because we know each other. We all grew up in the same neighborhood. So she goes, you go, and I'll just see you later, I'll see you later. And, many times, we take for granted leaving our house and returning back safe. And that's something that we truly take for granted. But that day, if my mother would have known what would have happened at least 10 to 15 minutes after she left me, I don't know if she would allow me to continue to walk, and maybe she would have, take me back home and not, even continue on this journey. Because as my mom left, what ended up happening, 2 big trucks, the trucks that look like, that brings the sand, like the constructions use, that has like sand and everything like that. They got the big back that you can jump on them. A couple guys jumped out on both trucks with M16s and literally kidnapped us, took us. So at the age of 10 years old, I have an M16 pointed, on my face and telling me, get in here right now. And they just grabbed us. They grabbed us, they threw us on top of the truck. And as they began to throw us on top of the truck, and what ended up happening is they started to question us, kids and the adults that was with us too. They said, well, we hear that your father is coming back here. So later on, I would learn that there was a militia group that kidnapped us. And when they were talking about your father returning, they were referring to the United States returning President Aristide back to power back in 94. If you know that that's the same 94 that the United States placed an embargo act on Haiti because of all the ridiculousness that was happening through, political stuff, right? Things that a 10-year-old have no idea about, you don't know nothing. So I basically got caught in the crossfire. But because I grew up in church, when they came and they asked me that question, that I hear that your father's coming back, I grew up in church my whole life. I'm the son of a bishop. How do I know how to answer that question? The only way I've known how to answer it is, yes, Jesus is coming back, because I go to church every day, and and we know that God is our Father. So when you quickly you tell me that my Father's coming back, I'm like, oh, he goes to church. Okay, so he must be talking about that. The thing is, as a kid, I don't even realize what danger I'm really in. And God allowed me to be naive to a lot of the things. It's not only after he saved my life, I realized, wait a minute, what just happened here? Because I gave him an answer like, we're in church. I hear your father's coming. And it's kind of like I started preaching to them. Like, yes, Jesus is coming back, but nobody knows the hour or the time. And this is me as a 10-year-old. This is what I'm telling them. And this is why I always tell parents, it's extremely important. This is why the Bible says you raise your kids in the way of the Lord. Because the thing is, it's what you put inside of your kids, that's what they can give out. If you never put the word inside of them, they can never speak the word out. It's whatever you invest in your children, that's what you're going to get back. So for me, that's what I was able to do. So the guys, what they did is they got upset with me. They said, oh, this guy, he think he's funny. He think, oh, we got a smart aleck right here. So what they did is they took me and they threw me in a corner. They said, we're going to save you for life, tough guy. Literally, just like that. They said, we're going to save you for last. Oh, you're smarty pants. Oh, you think you're smart. We're going to save you for last. And then in front of me, as soon as they said that, they grabbed the adult, they talked to him. And then within a matter of a second, I heard a gunshot. They went right behind the head and shot her right on the back of her head. Boom. Took her body and threw it off the truck like she was some type of just dead animal. Like she was just garbage. Now I'm scared. I'm in the corner like this, and I'm like, okay, now I'm just frozen. And they talking to another one. Same thing happened after a few minutes. Another shot to the head. Boom. Pick that person up. Throw him out. One of my friends that I grew up with, little kid, we're all about the same age. Shot to the head. Throw him out. When there's about 3 of us left inside of the truck. Remember, they told me that they was going to save me for last. I heard a voice said jump. And when I heard the voice said jump, I froze. That's right. I heard the voice said jump, and guess what? I froze. You know how many times you said that you have in your mind that, oh, this happened, this is what I'm going to do. Nah, you don't know what you're going to do until you in that situation, okay? It's easy for me to stay here in the middle of safety and tell you what I'm going to do in the midst of danger, but nobody knows what you're going to do. You don't know if you're going to froze. You don't know if you're going to be screaming. You have no idea what you're going to do until you get there. The second time, when the voice said jump, and that was the very first time in my life. It was the first time that I heard the voice of God. I was 10 years old. That day, God was no longer the God of my father, the God that my mother served, the God that my family brought me to church with. He became my God. There will always be something in your life, sooner or later. You know, you may not think you need God today. You may not think you need God tomorrow, but I am telling you, there is a time coming that God's going to have to be your God. You hear me? And when the voice said, jump, I felt when the voice came, there was like a strong wind that just picked me up and threw me out of the truck all at once. Like the moment the voice said jump, it's like I just jumped. And God, while their backs was turned, God never allowed them to notice because they were too busy questioning. They were too busy. Imagine there's two trucks. God did not allow them to see that there was a little kid that just got flipped out of the truck. Maybe the other truck thought that they had killed me because remember, they were throwing people out the truck anyway. So it kind of looked like maybe I was dead and I was just thrown off like nothing. And where I fell, it's not a pavement road, it's dirt and rocks. And there's like 4 or 5 different directions that you can go. But where God allowed me to fall, and I bruised my right knee here. And I still got that mark on my knee, by the way. And what happens is when I lift up my head, I realized that God allowed me to fall right on the road that would lead me to my school. Literally, my school was just a few feet away from where, because remember, we was in the car, in the truck, just going up, which is the way that we would have been walking anyway. So when I fell in, the guardian of the school, because back in Haiti, every school has a guardian that stands at the gates. Gates are open and closed. They don't allow anything to stay open. If you do not have the uniform of that school, there is no way you're getting in there. So remember, I started my day going to where? To school. So when the guardian saw that and the guardian knew me, he didn't yell. He just opened the gate a little bit and he signaled me like, run, 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 run. So I ran as fast as I could. And once I got there, they closed the gate behind me. Within a few minutes, we hear the truck backing up, boo, boo, boo. And then the people in there started arguing with each other like, where did that little kid go? Man, we should have killed him when we had the chance, man. Because that guy, he was a smart aleck. He was a smart man. And they went looking for me. And God did not allow them to find me. God shielded me that day. And I was the only person out of 7 people that were taken that day that actually made it back home alive. And for a very long time, for the past 26 years, the Lord has kept me. And I've struggled with my purpose because I asked the question, God, why me? There were so many of us here that you could have saved. Why did you save me? And it's not until that the Lord blessed me with GTM. This is why I said earlier how GTM connected me to my purpose, is because when I stood on the stage of Italy in front of people who didn't look like me, but they were so hungry and so ready to receive what it is that God placed in my heart. And I tell you this, I felt, for the first time in my life, I felt like my life mattered. To be honest with you, I carried a guilt. I don't think I ever told you this, but I carried a guilt with me for a long time because I'm like, why was I the one that made it? And can I tell you, during this pandemic that just passed, as I was sitting right in this room leading prayer a few weeks ago, because what we started to do in our ministry, the Lord spoke to me a few weeks ago and says, I'm going to use you to lead during this time. But he says, but I want you to be more generous. And when the Lord said that to me, my bills wasn't paid, my mortgage is due, bills is piling up. I'm not considered an essential worker, so my business, I can't run my business. So I've just been home for the past 5.5 weeks. And, God says, you're going to start being blessing to others that are in need right now. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, okay, I'm in need too, But I know when God tells you to do something, just be obedient. So I started doing it until last week. We started to do Up until this date, we've already delivered close to about 29 groceries to families in need throughout different cities. And do you know, as I was leading the prayer right there, the voice came and says, that's why I saved your life. So everything that happened to me at 10 years old, and then also with the GTM and with the work that I'm doing right now, God was telling me as clear as day, as I'm talking to people, it's like I started having like a out of body experience. And I heard the voice as clear as day. It says, this is why your life mattered. This right here. This is why. So sometimes, you know, you have to remember he gave Joseph the dream at the age of 17 years old. But it's only after 13 years, when he was 30, when he was sitting on that throne, that's when everything that he went through, you know, the stabbing in the back, being sold into slavery, going into jail. Sometimes we're going through things in life and we don't understand, and we want to ask God, but why me? Why me? That's why I love this song that says, Father along your understanding. Farther along. So keep living, keep going. I'm telling you, one way or the other, God is going to reveal to you why you had to go through the things that you had to go through. But you know what? I would have never known that God was a way maker if I was never in a position that I needed him to make a way for me out of the valley. You hear me? And the things we don't know if God is a healer until we're sick. The thing about it is, God loves you too much to baby you. He has to allow you to go to adversity, because suffering is part of our faith, and it's also part of our journey.
Exactly. Joel, you have written a book called If You Only Knew What God Has Brought Me Through, and you talk about the story when you were kidnapped.
Yes.
I think you talk about the story with the lady who cursed everyone.
Witchcraft.
Yes. And a lot of other amazing testimonies, because you really have been through a lot, and God has really brought you through and rescued you out of them all. And so we're going to put a link to where you can buy this book. It's really amazing.
Yeah.
Also, he has another one. You want to share that real quick with the other book?
Yeah. Last year, I actually came out with my second book. It's called The Hungry Man Special. And I'm telling you, this book will bless you. Be Discovered Magazine did a great imprint for me on the book. They loved it, enjoyed it. I'm touching on things on how, you know, how important it is for you to know your identity, because many people are struggling with their identity, right? We see what's going on with the world today. You know, 1 minute, you know, people are questioning their identity, you know, and I'm also speaking on the importance of knowing your responsibility, because after you know your identity, it will give birth to your responsibility. Right? And then knowing the importance of having vision and self-care, something that we all struggle with, right? Self-care. Sometimes for self-care, it's okay to say no. You don't have to say yes all the time, you know? Sometimes you got to say no. And I'm touching on things like being determined, knowing that you're in a journey and never giving up. And the book ends. So the book starts with identity and it ends with me reassuring you that you are a winner. You was born a winner. You were created beautifully, made in the image of God, and to know who you are. And both of these books are on Amazon. So definitely go out there and support my first one. This book, actually, this is how I dealt with the passing of my dad. You know, sometimes when your life turns upside down, you know, sometimes I'm gonna be honest with you, sometimes you get to a moment there where you lost. Where you're like, yo, God, what's going on here? And sometimes you can either get angry with God. Sometimes you can turn into maybe drugs or alcohol, and you start doing things and you start to lose your way. And it was never my vision to be an author. I'm going to be honest with you. You know me, I love my music. You know, I always thought that, you know, I would have had an album out by now already. I've written so many songs and still not been able to record. I actually started recording this year, but then, you know, Sister Rona came into the place and put everything on hold right now, you know. But this was always my father's dream. He always wanted to write a book. So he never got a chance to do it. So this was my way on honoring my father's legacy, man, and not being upset with God. And like, you know, God, through my pain, I see there's a purpose there. And I did, man. And with this book, when it first came out, it allowed me to return to Haiti for the first time since my kidnapping. Okay? It was over 24 years until I returned back to Haiti, and I preached in front of 13,000 people. And what we did here in the United States with this book, we took that because that was a dream of mine. I said, Lord, I'm not going to touch a penny, and was able to feed 10,000 people in Haiti with the proceed that we did on this first book. So
Joel,
God is good. What else can I say?
do you think you would do any of the stuff that you've been doing if you didn't go through all this suffering and all these traumas?
Nah,
What do you think you'd be
nah.
like? It's like, what has this
To be honest with you, it's
done?
scary. To be honest with you, I've never thought about it, and nor do I even want to think about where my life would be. Because to be honest with you, a life without purpose is meaningless. But I do not think, first of all, I would have never gotten the opportunity to met you, to know you.
Yeah.
That our path would have never been connected like this. And who knows, maybe I would have been a selfish person. Maybe I would have just, been thinking about just me and my family, just go about a day. Maybe I would have been just an average Joe. I would have been an average Joe, just working a regular 9-to-5 job, just come home, beer belly. I don't know. My life could have been anywhere, but I tell you this, it's been a heck of a journey. And I thank God for it, man. I think the older I get, I realize that God is like the plans, like what he says in Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans that I have for you, a plan not to harm you. It's funny how he says that first. Before he talks about, but the plans to give you hope in the future, he says, wait, it's not to harm you. Because the first thing we all think about when something happens in life, what more can I take, right? Because we always think the storms are coming to choke us out, to drown us. And we got to say, no. The storms are coming to birth something greater. God is stretching you. The stretching is never going to feel comfortable. You know what I'm saying? Who want to be stretched? Nobody. You don't. But it's like, God, there's something. It may be a year from now. It may be 2 years from now. It may be 20 years from now. But whatever the time comes, God is going to show you exactly why you had to go there. And one thing I've learned with my life is how to get rid of distractions pretty quickly. Like, one thing I have learned through my personal life and things that I had to go through was it's not the water outside that sinks the boat. It's the water that you allow outside to get inside the boat. So as long as you don't allow anything that's happening outside to get into you, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine.
Wow, what an inspiration, Joel. And I think it's very encouraging to people who are dealing with a suffering in any shape or form that this is actually not necessarily the end of it. If you're in Christ, you have so many promises. God really gives you hope in a future. And he has, even Romans 8:28, he says, all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord according to his purpose. So I think, if we can just know that whatever situation we're in right now, even as you were kidnapped, God had a way out. And I think that just gives some hope.
Yes. Yes, God had a way out. I like that. I mean, that's a great sermon topic right there. I like that. God has a way out. There's a way out. There's a way out.
Amazing. So, Joel, before we end this conversation, I was thinking that it would be super nice to hear you share a song with us because you are, after all, a musician and a music missionary.
Yes, ma'am.
And so what song do you want to share with us, and why did you pick that song?
I want to share this song. It's called Make Me a Servant. Make Me a Servant. It's been a worship song that many people throughout Europe loves and enjoy. I know. Shout out to the queen herself, Monica Bernasola. I forgot which trip it was, but she did the solo on that song, and she has such a beautiful voice. My Lord, that woman, there's nothing that she can't do. And shout out to my sister Lisa Brown, which is like the queen of gospel over there, in Italy. And both of them, just sing that song. And honestly, out of every song that I've ever written, this was actually my father's favorite song. So one of the reasons, to think back of a great legacy, because I'm getting a lot of credit for a lot of things that I'm enjoying today, but it's because my father really sowed a great seed, and all the work that he did, and I learned how to be faithful to the calling, how to be faithful to your family, how to be faithful, to what God has called you to do, without fault through him. And basically the song, it's a prayer. It's basically saying, Lord, each day I want to be close to you. I want your words to live in me, not my opinion, not what I see on CNN, but I want your words. Because the thing about it is, life is going to hit you with some things that's going to contradict what the word of God says, and that's why we walk by faith and not by sight, and when the storm gets rough and it seems to be no way, my faith in you will see me through. So I think this song is very appropriate to what's going on right now, right? When the storm gets rough, like this COVID-19 and this coronavirus, and who knows what's coming after it, you know? So we need to understand that God is still in control. And the chorus goes, do what you want with me. Use me as you wish. Make me a servant for you. I'm asking you, Lord, use me as you wish. Make me a servant for you. So this is, you know, the man just giving up his will and saying, not my will, Lord, but let your will be done in my life. So that's why I chose that song.
Lord, each day I want to be close to you. I want your words to live in me. When the storm is rough and there seems to be no way, my faith in you will see me through. My faith in you will see me through. Lord, each day I wanna be close to you. I want your words in me. When the storm gets rough and it seems to be no way, my faith in you will see me through. My faith in you will see me through. Do what you want with me. Use me as you wish. Make me a servant for you. I am asking you, Lord, use me as you wish. Make me a servant for you. I am asking you, Lord, use me as you wish. Make me a servant for you. Teach me your ways, Lord, I need to be where you are. Teach me your ways, Lord, I need to be where you are. Teach me your ways, Lord, I need to be where you are. Teach me your ways, Lord, I need to be where you are. Teach me your ways, Lord, I need to be where you are. Teach me your ways, Lord, I need to be where you are. Teach me your ways, Lord, I need to be where you are. Teach me your ways, Lord, I need to be where you are. Utenseme, wetale me kote, yeah. Utenseme, wetale me kote, yeah. Say, I say, Amen. Wetale me kote, yeah. I say, Amen. Yeah. Teach me your ways, Lord, I need to be where you are. Teach me your ways, Lord, I need to be where you are. Teach me your ways, Lord, I need to be where you are.
Oh, thank you so much, Joel. What a beautiful song. I don't think I actually heard it before. So that is
Really?
yes. So I'm very glad I got to hear that. That's beautiful. So may I ask,
Glory
was that Italian or French at the end?
At the end, that was Creole.
Oh, see, I got it all wrong. So that's
That was
the
Creole.
language
It's
you
broken
spoke
down
in.
French, but it's the language of my Haitian people. So normally when I write, I try to write in different languages. Sometimes when I'm in Italy, I write a song and I ask somebody to translate for me in Italian, you know, so yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. Joel, so we're gonna remind everyone to go get the books. And also I wanted to let people know that these amazing outfits or the clothing that you have on,
Yes.
Addicted to Jesus
This is
sweater
awesome.
and your
Yes.
baseball cap. I mean, it's such awesome.
Yes, most definitely.
And they can go get that online too. We're going to put a link to where you can get that if you want to support and get some great clothes at the same time. So thank you so much, Joel, for sharing your testimony, for sharing about your life, and for also for your continued service through GTM on these mission trips. We love you so much, Joel. And
love you too. I can't wait to be back. I can't wait.
I know. All right. Well, thank you everyone for watching, and we hope to see you in the next video. Bye.
Arrivederci. Ciao. Bye. Au revoir. Peace.